Ladies and gentlemen, life is suffering. That is the fundamental truth that none of us can escape. But here's the other truth. You are not helpless in the face of it. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not destined to be crushed under the weight of adversity. See, the mind is an untamed beast, but if you train it, if you discipline it, you can turn it into your most powerful ally. You can teach it to endure, to push forward when everything inside you screams to stop. You can mold it into something resilient, courageous, unstoppable. The question is, are you willing to do the work? Because make no mistake, this is work. It's daily, it's difficult, and it's uncomfortable. But if you commit to it, if you take full responsibility for your thoughts, your actions, and your response to suffering, then there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that you cannot overcome. So tonight, let's talk about how you can forge a mind that will carry you through any storm, any setback, any challenge that life dares to throw your way. Let's get to work. Your mind is the lens through which you perceive reality. Every thought you entertain, every narrative you construct, and every assumption you accept shapes the way you engage with the world. But most people go through life unaware of the sheer power their thoughts hold over. They allow their minds to run on autopilot, shaped by external influences, past traumas, and social conditioning. They react rather than respond. They blame rather than take control. They assume that the way they think is simply the way they are, as if their thoughts are a force beyond their control. But this is not true. Your thoughts are not fixed, and they are not inevitable. They are habits, patterns that you have reinforced over time. And just as you can train your body to be stronger and more resilient, you can train your mind to be sharper, clearer, and more disciplined. Taking responsibility for your thoughts means becoming acutely aware of what is happening in your mind at all times. It means stepping back from yourself and observing the way you think with an objective eye. Too many people accept their thoughts as reality without ever questioning them. They assume that because they feel anxious, they must have a reason to be anxious. Because they feel inadequate, they must actually be inadequate. Because they feel hopeless, they must be trapped in a hopeless situation. But thoughts are not truths. They are mental habits, and like any habit, they can be changed. The first step in this process is recognizing the voice in your head. It is always speaking, narrating your experiences, interpreting events, making assumptions, and passing judgment. But who is in control of this voice? Most people are not. Their inner dialogue is a product of everything they have been exposed to, their upbringing, their environment, their failures, and their insecurities. They do not consciously shape it. They simply listen to it and accept it as fact. But this is a dangerous way to live. If you do not take control of your thoughts, they will control you. If you allow negative, self-defeating beliefs to run unchecked in your mind, they will shape your actions, your emotions, and your entire reality. Training your mind starts with vigilance. You must become an observer of your own thoughts. Pay attention to the stories you tell yourself. When you encounter difficulty, do you immediately assume you are not capable? When you face rejection, do you tell yourself you are unworthy? When you make a mistake, do you label yourself a failure? These thoughts are not objective truths. They are conditioned responses. They are ingrained patterns, often influenced by years of unconscious repetition. But they are not set in stone. They can be rewritten. One of the most effective ways to take responsibility for your thoughts is to consciously challenge them. Every time a negative or limiting belief arises, ask yourself, is this true? Is this a fact, or is this simply a thought I have accepted without question? Most of the time you will find that these beliefs have no real foundation. They are assumptions, distortions, exaggerations. By challenging them, you weaken their hold on you. Another powerful strategy is replacing unhelpful thoughts with more constructive ones. This is not about blind optimism or self-deception. It is about choosing thoughts that serve you rather than thoughts that diminish you. If you catch yourself thinking, I'm not good enough, counter that with evidence of your competence. If you hear yourself saying, I always fail, replace that with, Replace that with, I am learning and I am improving. This is not an easy process, but it is necessary. The thoughts you allow to take root in your mind will dictate the quality of your life. Taking responsibility for your thoughts also means understanding that your emotions are often a direct result of your mental patterns. If you consistently entertain thoughts of fear, failure, and inadequacy, your emotions will follow suit. Anxiety, depression, frustration, these are often byproducts of a mind that has been left unchecked. But if you make it a habit to think with clarity, intention, and strength, your emotions will align accordingly. Many people assume that changing their thoughts is an impossible task, but the truth is, you do it all the time. Every time you learn something new, you are reshaping your mental framework. Every time you gain a new perspective, you are altering your thought processes. The difference is that most of these changes happen passively. What you must do is make the process intentional. You must actively choose which thoughts you reinforce and which thoughts you discard. You must take responsibility for what occupies your mind, just as you would take responsibility for what you feed your body. Another crucial element of this process is eliminating external influences that poison your thinking. Your environment plays a significant role in shaping your mental habits. If you are constantly surrounded by negativity, whether it be through toxic relationships, social media, or destructive habits, you are reinforcing harmful thought patterns without even realizing it. If you are consuming information that fills your mind with doubt, fear, and self-pity, you are strengthening the very mindset you are trying to escape. Being mindful of what you expose yourself to is just as important as being mindful of your internal dialogue. Rewiring your thought processes takes time and it requires relentless effort. You will fail. You will fall back into old habits. You will catch yourself believing in limiting thoughts even after you have tried to replace them. But this is the nature of growth. Progress is not linear and mastery is never instant. The key is persistence. The key is refusing to accept defeat. The key is understanding that training your mind is a lifelong process, one that demands discipline and intention every single day. Life is inherently challenging, and the default state of the human mind is to seek comfort and avoid hardship. This is an evolutionary instinct, a mechanism designed to keep us safe from danger and minimize suffering. But what was once a necessary survival trait has now become one of the greatest obstacles to personal growth. In modern society, real physical threats are rare, but psychological and emotional challenges are everywhere. People are not being chased by predators or struggling for basic survival, yet they are paralyzed by anxiety, fear, and a deep sense of unfulfillment. The reason is simple. They have not trained themselves to endure voluntary hardship. They have spent their lives avoiding discomfort, and in doing so, they have weakened their own resilience. Hardship is not something to be feared. It is something to be sought out. Not in a reckless or self-destructive way, but in a deliberate and controlled manner. When you take on voluntary hardship, you are preparing yourself for the inevitable adversities that life will throw at you. You are conditioning your mind and body to become stronger, more adaptable, and more capable of handling discomfort without breaking. You are forging resilience, and resilience is what separates those who thrive from those who crumble under pressure. Most people never intentionally put themselves in difficult situations. They live within the boundaries of what is comfortable, never pushing beyond what is familiar or easy. This is why they remain stagnant. They complain about their circumstances, but they do not challenge themselves enough to rise above them. They want success, confidence, and strength, but they are unwilling to go through the struggle required to earn those things. What they fail to realize is that the very act of embracing hardship is what transforms a person. It is what builds unshakable confidence, discipline, and fortitude. There is a reason why those who have endured great difficulty often become the strongest individuals. It is not because they were born that way, but because they were forged in struggle. They have learned to be comfortable with discomfort. They have trained themselves to keep moving forward, even when everything inside them wants to quit. This is not an inherent trait. It is a learned skill. Anyone can develop it, but only if they are willing to put themselves in situations that force them to grow. One of the most effective ways to embrace voluntary hardship is through physical challenge. The body and mind are deeply connected, and when you push your body beyond its perceived limits, your mind follows. This is why intense physical training, whether it be weightlifting, endurance running, martial arts, or any other demanding practice, is one of the best ways to develop mental toughness. When you willingly endure physical pain, fatigue, and exhaustion, you are teaching your mind that discomfort is not something to be feared. You are proving to yourself that you can endure more than you thought possible. This carries over into every other aspect of life. When you have trained yourself to embrace physical struggle, you become more capable of handling emotional and psychological challenges as well. But hardship is not just physical, it is also psychological. Ooh. Most people shy away from difficult conversations, challenging intellectual pursuits, or any form of deep introspection that forces them to confront their own flaws. They avoid criticism, failure, and rejection because these experiences are uncomfortable. But discomfort is the price of growth. If you never challenge your own thinking, if you never expose yourself to criticism, if you never put yourself in situations where failure is a real possibility, you will never improve. You will remain stagnant, trapped in the illusion of safety, while life moves forward without you. The key to embracing voluntary hardship is understanding that the struggle itself is the reward. It is not about the external results, though those will come. It is about who you become in the process. Every time you endure something difficult, every time you push past resistance, you are rewiring your brain. You are teaching yourself that you are capable of more. You are expanding the limits of what you thought possible. Over time, what once seemed unbearable becomes normal. What once seemed impossible becomes routine. This is how real strength is built. Another essential aspect of this process is learning to embrace uncertainty. People crave control, but the reality is that life is unpredictable. No matter how much you plan, no matter how careful you are, you will encounter situations that are beyond your control. Most people react to this with fear and hesitation. They avoid risk, they stay within their comfort zones, and they resist change. But this is a losing strategy. The only way to truly prepare for uncertainty is to seek it out. Put yourself in situations where you do not have all the answers. Take on challenges that force you to adapt. Expose yourself to environments where you must think on your feet. The more you do this, the more adaptable you become. And adaptability is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop. The modern world is built for comfort. Everything is designed to make life easier, to eliminate struggle, to remove as much friction as possible. And while this has brought undeniable convenience, it has also created weakness. People have lost the ability to endure hardship because they have never had to. They have grown accustomed to instant gratification, to quick solutions, to avoiding anything that requires sustained effort. But there is no strength without struggle. There is no growth without resistance. Embracing voluntary hardship does not mean making life unnecessarily difficult. It means choosing challenges that force you to grow. It means rejecting the easy path in favor of the path that will make you stronger. It means developing the mindset that struggle is not something to be avoided, but something to be pursued. The person who deliberately seeks out difficulty is the person who becomes unbreakable. The person who chooses to confront their fears, to push their limits, to endure discomfort willingly, is the person who will rise above the rest. Discipline is the foundation of strength. It is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain trapped in mediocrity. Without discipline, talent is wasted, intelligence is ineffective, and potential remains unrealized. It is not an innate quality that some are born with and others are not. It is a skill, a habit, a way of structuring your life that must be cultivated and reinforced daily. Most people think they lack motivation, but what they really lack is discipline. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes based on mood, circumstances, and external factors. Discipline, on the other hand, is consistent. It does not depend on how you feel. It is the ability to take action regardless of emotion, to do what needs to be done whether you want to or not. Discipline begins with structure. Without a clear framework for how you operate, you will be ruled by impulses and distractions. The modern world is filled with endless temptations, social media, entertainment, comfort, and indulgence. These distractions pull people away from their goals, stealing their time and energy. The disciplined person understands that if they do not impose order on their own life, the world will impose chaos. They create routines and stick to them. They wake up at the time they said they would. They train even when they do not feel like it. They work on their goals every single day, not just when inspiration strikes. They do not rely on feelings to determine their actions. They rely on commitment. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is its compounding effect. Small, consistent actions performed over time lead to extraordinary results. The disciplined person does not wait for massive leaps forward. They understand that progress is built brick by brick, day by day. They focus on showing up, putting in the effort, and trusting the process. And this is where most people fail. They expect immediate gratification. When they do not see instant results, they give up. They do not realize that success is not about dramatic transformations, but about relentless consistency. It is about stacking small wins until they create something unstoppable. A disciplined mind is one that does not entertain excuses. It does not allow procrastination to take hold. It does not tolerate laziness or self-pity. Excuses are the easy way out, the rationalizations people create to justify inaction. I'm too tired. I'll start tomorrow. These are the thoughts that destroy progress. The disciplined person recognizes these thoughts for what they are, lies designed to keep them weak. They reject them. They take action anyway. They understand that if they give in to excuses once, it becomes easier to do it again. And every time they allow themselves to slip, they reinforce the habit of quitting. Self-discipline is a battle against the self. The real enemy is not external circumstances, but internal resistance. Every day there's a part of the mind that wants to take the easy route, that wants to avoid discomfort, that wants to stay in the warmth of familiarity. The disciplined individual does not negotiate with this part of themselves. They do not entertain debate. They do not leave room for doubt. When they decide to do something, it is already done in their mind. The body follows because the decision has already been made. A critical element of mastering discipline is understanding that suffering is inevitable. There will always be pain, either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One is temporary, the other lasts a lifetime. The person who avoids hardship in the moment will eventually suffer the consequences of their inaction. The person who embraces discipline, who willingly endures the discomfort of effort, will reap the rewards in the long run. Pain cannot be avoided, but it can be chosen. The disciplined individual chooses short-term struggle to achieve long-term strength. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Even the most disciplined individuals have moments of weakness, moments where they fail to meet their own standards. The difference is that they do not allow failure to define them. They do not let one bad day turn into a bad week or one mistake turn into a habit. They correct course immediately. They do not dwell on failure. They learn from it and move forward. Developing discipline requires a shift in identity. It is not just about what you do. It is about who you become. If you see yourself as a weak, undisciplined person, your actions will reflect that belief. But when you begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, who does what they say they will do, who refuses to quit, then discipline becomes natural. Your identity dictates your behavior. The more you reinforce the belief that you are a disciplined individual, the easier it becomes to act accordingly. There are no shortcuts to discipline. It must be earned. It must be tested. It must be forged through action, through struggle, through consistent effort. Accordingly, the person who masters discipline masters themselves, and the person who masters themselves can achieve anything. Pain is an unavoidable part of life. No one escapes suffering, no matter how carefully they plan, how much they prepare, or how much they try to shield themselves from hardship. Yet, despite its inevitability, most people spend their lives running from pain, avoiding discomfort, and resisting struggle. They see pain as something negative, something to be eliminated as quickly as possible. This mindset weakens them. It keeps them fragile, unable to handle the difficulties that life will inevitably throw their way. But there is another way to approach pain, one that transforms suffering into strength, struggle into growth, and adversity into opportunity. Pain is a signal, not a sentence. It is an indication that something in your life needs attention. Whether it is physical pain, emotional pain, or mental distress, it is a message that you must not ignore. Most people numb themselves to it. They distract themselves with entertainment, addictions, and escapism. They avoid the very thing that could make them stronger because facing it is uncomfortable. But growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in resistance. It happens when you confront pain head on and extract wisdom from it. Every time you experience pain, you have a choice. You can let it break you, or you can let it shape you. Weakness is not the result of pain itself. It is the result of avoiding pain. Strength is not the absence of suffering. It is the ability to endure it and emerge better because of it. This is a fundamental shift in mindset. Well, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of seeing pain as something unfair, see it as an opportunity to become more resilient, more disciplined, and more prepared for the future. The strongest people are not those who have had easy lives. They are the ones who have faced immense hardship and refused to let it defeat them. They have suffered losses, setbacks, and failures. But instead of allowing these experiences to make them bitter, they have allowed them to make them better. They have developed an unshakable inner core forged through adversity because they understood that every painful experience was a lesson in disguise. The process of reframing pain as growth begins with perspective. Pain is temporary, but the lessons it teaches can last a lifetime. When you are in the middle of suffering, it feels all-consuming. It feels like it will never end. But if you look back at the hardest moments of your life, you will see that they passed. What remains is not the suffering itself, but what you took from it. Did it make you wiser? Did it make you tougher? Did it push you to become someone you never thought you could be? The answer depends on whether you embraced the pain or ran from it. The mind and body are adaptable. They adjust to the level of stress and resistance they are exposed to. This is why challenging experiences, while painful in the moment, ultimately make you stronger. A muscle grows by being torn down and rebuilt. A mind grows by being stretched beyond its limits. A spirit grows by enduring hardship and refusing to surrender. And if you never push yourself beyond what is comfortable, you will never know what you are truly capable of. The person who seeks out struggle voluntarily, who embraces the pain of effort, the pain of discipline, the pain of failure, is the one who becomes unbreakable. Pain also reveals character. When everything is easy, it is simple to be positive, disciplined, and strong. But true strength is tested in hardship, when you are exhausted, when you are beaten down, when you feel like there's no way forward. That is when your true character is revealed. Do you quit? Or do you keep going? Do you let pain define you, or do you define yourself through how you handle pain? These are the moments that separate those who succeed from those who remain stuck. One of the most powerful aspects of pain is that it forces you to change. People resist change because it is uncomfortable. They want things to be different, but they do not want to go through the struggle required to make them different. Pain removes that choice. It forces transformation. It strips away illusions, false identities, and limiting beliefs. It pushes you to evolve to become something greater than you were before. If you resist this process, you will suffer even more. But if you embrace it, you will grow in ways you never imagined. Resilience is not built in the absence of pain. It is built through pain. Every challenge you overcome strengthens you for the next one. Every hardship you endure adds another layer of toughness to your mind. Every failure you survive teaches you how to rise again. Over time, what once seemed unbearable becomes just another obstacle to overcome. What once broke you now barely phases you. This is the power of embracing pain as growth. The most dangerous mindset a person can have is one that seeks comfort above all else. Comfort leads to stagnation. Stagnation leads to weakness. Weakness leads to suffering. Weakness leads to suffering. The people who achieve the most in life, who become the strongest, most capable versions of themselves, are those who willingly step into discomfort, who seek out challenges, who use pain as a tool for transformation. They understand that growth is not given. It is earned through struggle. And the more they embrace that struggle, the stronger they become. Fear is one of the most powerful forces that shape human behavior. It is a natural response to the unknown, to potential threats, to failure, and to rejection. But while fear exists to keep us safe, it also has the power to trap us. It keeps people stuck in mediocrity, afraid to take risks, afraid to step into the unknown, afraid to push beyond their limits. Fear whispers lies, convincing people that they are not capable, that they will fail, that they should stay exactly where they are. The reality, however, is that fear is not a wall. It is a door. And those who learn to walk through it become unstoppable. Most people do not understand fear. They think that courage means the absence of fear, that strong individuals simply do not experience it. But that is not true. The strongest people are not fearless. They are those who feel fear and act anyway. Fear is a signal. It shows you exactly where your growth lies. If something scares you, it means it matters. It means it has the potential to shape you. It means it is an area where you need to grow. The problem is not fear itself. It is the reaction to fear. Most people see fear and step back. They avoid it. They tell themselves a story about why they cannot do it, why it is too risky, why it is better to stay where they are. But every time they do this, they reinforce weakness. They condition themselves to surrender to fear instead of facing it. The mind creates fear based on past experiences, failures, and insecurities. It exaggerates risks, focusing on everything that could go wrong. It convinces you that you are incapable before you even try. But the truth is, most fears are illusions. They are mental projections, not reality. The things people are afraid of, public speaking, failure, judgment, rejection, are rarely as catastrophic as they imagine. And yet, these fears dictate their actions, shaping the course of their lives. The only way to break this cycle is to confront fear head on. The moment you lean into what scares you, you take away its power. You realize that the monster in your mind is not as big as you thought. And once you do that, fear loses its grip on you. The key to overcoming fear is exposure. And the more you face what scares you, the less power it has. It is like stepping into cold water. At first, it is shocking, uncomfortable, even painful. But the longer you stay in it, the more your body adapts. The same applies to fear. When you consistently push yourself into situations that make you uncomfortable, your mind adapts. What once felt impossible becomes normal. The challenge that once seemed unbearable becomes just another step forward. This is why action is the antidote to fear. Thinking about fear only makes it grow. Acting in spite of fear shrinks it. One of the greatest fears people have is failure. They see failure as something to be ashamed of, something that defines them as incapable or unworthy. But failure is not a dead end. It is a teacher. Every failure contains lessons, insights, and opportunities for growth. The people who succeed at the highest levels are not those who never fail. They are those who fail repeatedly but keep going. They do not take failure personally. They see it as a necessary step toward mastery. Suya. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who do not is not intelligence, talent, or luck. It is the willingness to fail without giving up. The fear of failure stops more people than failure itself ever could. Another fear that holds people back is the fear of judgment. People are terrified of what others might think of them. They hesitate to take risks, to speak their minds, to pursue their dreams, all because they are afraid of criticism. But the truth is, no matter what you do, someone will have an opinion. You could play it safe, follow the crowd, and still be judged. Or you could step forward, take control of your life, and be judged anyway. The question is not whether people will talk. It is whether their opinions will dictate your actions. And the strongest individuals refuse to let the fear of judgment hold them back. They understand that other people's opinions are just noise. They focus on their own path, their own mission, their own growth. Fear is not something that ever completely disappears. It is always there, always whispering doubts, always trying to hold you back. But it does not have to control you. Fear can be a companion rather than an enemy. It can be a guide pointing you toward the areas where you need to grow. Every time you step into fear, you build courage. One of courage. Every time you take action despite fear, you strengthen your confidence. Over time, you become the kind of person who no longer hesitates, who no longer allows fear to dictate their choices. You become someone who sees fear, acknowledges it, and moves forward anyway. The mind is the most powerful tool you possess, yet most people go through life without ever learning how to control it. They allow their thoughts to dictate their emotions to dictate their actions, and their actions to dictate their destiny. They live reactively, moving through life at the mercy of external circumstances rather than mastering their internal world. But the truth is, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your thoughts. If you learn to control your mind, you learn to control everything else. Strength, resilience, success, all of it begins with mental mastery. The mind is like a wild horse. If left untamed, it will run in every direction, pulling you along with it, taking you wherever it pleases. It will flood you with doubt, insecurity, fear, and hesitation. It will replay past mistakes, magnify future worries, and convince you that you are incapable. But just like a wild horse can be trained, so too can the mind. It requires effort, discipline, and awareness. The first step is understanding that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts arise automatically, shaped by past experiences, emotions, and subconscious beliefs. But just because a thought appears does not mean you must accept it as truth. Most people live on autopilot, unaware of the constant stream of negativity running through their minds. They accept every self-doubt, every fear, every limiting belief as if it were an undeniable reality. But the mind is not always a reliable narrator. It will tell you that you are not good enough, that you cannot change, that you will fail. But these are just thoughts. And thoughts can be challenged, rewritten, and replaced. The moment you begin to observe your thoughts instead of blindly believing them, you take the first step toward mental control. Mental toughness is not something you are born with, it is something you build. It is developed through intentional effort, through the conscious decision to reject weakness and embrace strength. One of the most powerful ways to strengthen the mind is through adversity. When you voluntarily put yourself in difficult situations, when you push beyond comfort, when you challenge yourself, when you expose yourself to hardship, you train the mind to endure. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the less power discomfort has over you. What once seemed unbearable becomes manageable. What once broke you now barely phases you. Focus is another essential component of mental control. In the modern world, attention is constantly under attack. Distractions are everywhere. Social media, notifications, endless entertainment, pulling people in 1,000 directions, weakening their ability to concentrate. A scattered mind is a weak mind. Strength comes from the ability to direct your focus toward what matters and block out everything else. The ability to sustain attention, to stay locked in on a goal without being pulled away by distractions, is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. It is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain stuck in mediocrity. One of the most destructive mental habits is negative self-talk. The words you say to yourself shape your reality. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not capable, not smart enough, not strong enough, your mind will find ways to make those beliefs true. The opposite is also true. If you tell yourself that you are resilient, disciplined, and powerful, your mind will find ways to align with those beliefs. This is not about false positivity. It is about conditioning your brain to work for you rather than against you. The strongest people in the world are not those who never experience doubt, but those who refuse to let doubt control them. Visualization is a powerful tool for training the mind. Your brain does not distinguish strongly between real experiences and vividly imagined ones. When you visualize yourself succeeding, overcoming obstacles, pushing through challenges, your mind begins to accept those scenarios as reality. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and high achievers use this technique to mentally rehearse their success before it happens. They see themselves conquering difficulties, and when those difficulties arise in real life, they respond with confidence because their minds have already prepared for them. Meditation and mindfulness are other ways to strengthen the mind. These practices train you to become aware of your thoughts without being controlled by them. They teach you to observe emotions without reacting impulsively. A mind that is constantly consumed by overthinking, worry, and fear is a mind that is out of control. Training the mind to be present, to focus on the now instead of being trapped in the past or lost in the future, builds resilience and clarity. The mind is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you push through discomfort, every time you redirect negative thoughts, every time you discipline yourself to focus, you are forging a mind that cannot be broken. Weakness is not permanent. It is simply the result of untrained thinking. The moment you decide to take control of your mind is the moment you take control of your life.